Hey everyone, this is Christian. Welcome to AC55 IoT at Home with Minew and Azure IoT. In this tutorial, we'll be connecting to the cloud. Let me first talk you through the architecture and the overview of this tutorial. First, we'll have a number of sensors from Minew at home together with the G1 Gateway. We'll, in this tutorial, connect them to the internet and enable them to send data over the internet to Azure IoT Hub. In subsequent tutorials, we'll cover how you take that data from the IoT Hub through Stream Analytics to Power BI and blob storage. If you want to replicate what we're doing here in this tutorial, you'll need one G1 Gateway from Minew and 5 S1 sensors from Minew. So that's what we have on the hardware side. On the software side, in this tutorial, we'll be using Microsoft Azure, and you can do everything I show here with a free subscription. In this tutorial, we'll also be using Microsoft Visual Studio Code, which is again free, and we'll be using two extensions to Visual Studio Code. One is called Azure Account, and the other one is called Azure IoT Hub. I'll show you where you can find both of them. Let me briefly talk you through the 4 sections of this first tutorial. In the first section, we'll upgrade the firmware and reboot the Minew G1 Gateway so that we have the latest and greatest firmware. Then we'll log into the Azure portal and create an IoT Hub and an IoT device and copy out a few connection strings we'll need to string the whole thing together. Then we'll connect to Visual Studio Code and have that connect to IoT Hub. And then in the fourth element, we'll configure the G1 Gateway to send data through to the Azure IoT Hub. We'll go back to Azure and make sure that we can actually see the data coming in, or at least find indications that the data is coming in. So that's the overview of this tutorial. As you can see in the subsequent tutorials, we'll set up storage, analytics, and visualizations. And then I'll teach you in the third tutorial a few ways that you can tweak the settings to get more useful outcomes and optimize the setup. So let's get started. First, we'll upgrade the firmware on the Minew G1 Gateway. On my home network, it's on the following IP address, 192.168.1.130. On your network, it's bound to be something different. So you'll have to find that and then log in. Once it's been rebooted, there will be no password, so it's just admin, no password, you log in. You'll be prompted to give it a password. I'll do that at a later stage. That's not the point of this tutorial. Once you've logged in, hit across to Other in the Other pane. Scroll down sort of mid-screen to the firmware upgrade section. Then hit Upgrade Type. Click OTA, which is over the air. You then have the option to save the current configuration. I'll leave that at No, because the whole point of this tutorial is to show you what the appropriate configuration will be. So I'm not going to save anything. And then click the latest version. As of today, that is version 3.2.2. So we'll click that and click Upgrade. It'll ask you to confirm, and we hit OK. This process will take about 3 minutes, and I'll pause the video while we wait. Now my gateway is back online. Log back in. It's going to ask me to set a password again. I'll do that later again. I just want to do one more thing before we head across to Azure IoT, which is to make sure that we have the right time zone. It's fairly important when we start sending up data. So in my time zone, I'm Central Europe, so I'm UTC -1. So you set that, and you hit Apply. And done. Now we are basically all set. We'll now move across to Azure. So inside of Azure, I have a free account. I have absolutely no resources of any type there. So the first thing we'll do is to create a resource group. So you can hover across the resource group icon here or here, and then click Create. I'll select my free trial subscription, and I'll just give it a quick name, AC55, and take West Europe. And hit Create. This takes literally a second to be created. Done. Go to resource group. I have no resources inside of it, so I need to go create a resource. That'll open up this window where I then search for IoT Hub. Okay, we'll hit create and then start the configuration process. It'll automatically select the free trial. It'll select the resource group we just created. It'll propose East US. We'll change that to West Europe. Here we go. And then I need to give it a name. I'll give it AC55-IoT Hub. It's very important that we don't click review and create immediately, but go through each of the tabs. In network, we'll leave it open. In management, since this is a tutorial and we're here to learn, we'll select the free tier. There's no technical differences between the standard tiers and the free tier. The only difference is the number of messages per day that you're allowed to send. When we take the free tier, you can only send 8,000 messages per day, which is enough for learning purposes. And now click review and create, pass the tests and create. This will take roughly 3 to 4 minutes to get deployed, and I'll pause the video while we wait. And now the deployment of our IoT Hub is complete. As we can see here, it took about 3 minutes to get that done. Let's go click here, go to resource, and we'll need to copy out a few connection strings and settings so that we can weave the whole solution together. The first one is host name. You find that under overview. So we'll take that, click here, copy to clipboard, and I've prepared a small notepad document where we'll just paste these variables. So the first one is our host name. The second thing we'll need is under settings, under shared access policies, we'll need a connection string. And you find that by clicking shared access policies on the left, then clicking IoT Hub owner, and the solution here, which is connection string primary key. We will copy that to the clipboard. We'll paste that here. Then we'll need to go and get an event hub endpoint string. We'll find that under built-in endpoints. Event hub compatible endpoint. We'll copy this little thing here. We'll need that a little later. Now we'll go create an IoT device. You do that under the Explorers. Click IoT Devices. You should have none at this point. Then we click New. And the only thing you need to do here is literally give it a name. It's super important that you only give it small caps in the name. It took me 3 days to find the mistake when I accidentally gave it large caps. So AC55-GW for gateway, and then click save. We'll now move across to Visual Studio Code for the next step. We connect Visual Studio Code to Azure IoT Hub. So we'll move across to Visual Studio Code, which I already have open. The first thing we'll need to do is sign in. We can do that in a number of ways. I think one way is to click the Azure icon here. Then we'll click sign in. And then open up a browser where I can select my username, does the authentication, and I can switch back to Visual Studio Code. Once we're connected, you should be able to see your free trial here and any resource group. We'll move across to the Explorer, which is here. And we now have this called here IoT Hub. Maybe I skipped a few steps here. In Visual Studio Code, you'll need 2 more extensions. You find the extensions under this tab. I've already pre-installed the Azure account extension and the Azure IoT Hub extension. Otherwise, you find them by just searching here, Azure account. Here, you'd hit install. You click search for Azure IoT Hub. Find here, you hit install, which would be here. I'd already done that prior to us starting. So we'll go back to the Explorer. So, IoT Hub. I'll click here. I can select IoT Hub. It'll ask me up here which subscription I'm looking at. I'll take the free trial. I'll take the IoT Hub from before. and it's selected. You'll see here that it then populates it with the devices I have. So this is one way you can do it. Another way you can do it is click on the three dots and set IoT Hub connection string. Then you'll be prompted for the connection string, which is what we copied into our notepad earlier in this video. This is this connection string. We paste that, and when I hit enter, you should see a small simulation over here with a blue line hitting across, which means that it connects and updates. So now I'm connected to my IoT Hub, and I can see my device. The next thing we want to do is create the SAS token. So you find your device, you right click on the device, and you click on generate SAS token for device. As you hit it, you'll be prompted in the bar up here for an expiration time in hours. This is the length with which this connection key will be valid and create a connection between your device and Azure IoT Hub. In this case, I'll take a week, which equates to 168 hours. It's really important that you remember that after 168 hours, the connection will be dropped, and you'll have to repeat this. You can, of course, also punch in a much bigger number. There are some security risks associated to that, but they're not the topic of this tutorial. So we'll put in 168, hit enter, and a SAS token will be generated. We'll take this token here, copy it, and put it into our notepad. For now, we're done within Visual Studio Code. We now need to go across to the next module, which is configuring the Minew Gateway so it can send data to the Azure IoT Hub. Log back in, still prompts me for a password. In this case, I go to service. First thing we'll need to change is the URL. It shouldn't be TCP, we go to SSL. This default from the factory we have to replace with our host, which was this string here, the host name. Take the host name, colon 883, 8883. So 3 8s and a 3. So that's the port that we'll be connecting to. The next few elements we can skip. There, if you want to connect using certificates, which is not how we'll do it in this tutorial. In the client ID, we'll type in the device ID, which was small caps AC55-GW. The username will be the host name / the device ID, which is AC55-GW. Our password is the SAS token we just copied out of Visual Studio Code. Copy that again, paste that here. The status published topic, we'll have to manually set those. They have to be devices / your device ID, which is AC55-GW, / messages, / events, / The action control topic is very similar, except here it has to be device bound. So we set those two. Action control response topic we'll not use in this tutorial, so we'll just leave it at the default for now. This will effectively render it useless, but we'll come back and fix that another time. If we scroll down, say filter duplicate data, we'll click no for now. That's the topic of a later tutorial. Do we want to upload the iBeacon? Nope. We'll set that to no. Do we want to upload S1, S3, or S4? Absolutely yes, because we have S1 sensors. Upload unknown? No. Do we want to upload data around the gateway itself? No. We'll then hit apply. Before we do that, you might observe that your gateway has a rainbow pattern in the LEDs on top of it. As soon as we hit apply, if we've set everything up correctly, it'll connect to the IoT Hub and it'll actually go dark. So we'll click apply, we'll come back and say OK, and we'll hurry across to Visual Studio Code. These windows. clear this. Now the first thing we'll do here is hit refresh. Please note first that the icon here is blue, and it says when you hover with your mouse over it that it's disconnected. We'll now hit refresh, and if all goes well, it should turn green. There it went. It's now green and connected. So we've actually succeeded in connecting our G1 Gateway to Azure IoT Hub. This is the first sign that it actually works. The next proof that it works, we'll right-click on it and say Start Monitoring Built-in Endpoint. It'll now prompt you to enter the Event Hub compatible endpoint string, which is what we copied out earlier in this module. And we left that here. So we'll take this string, copy it, paste it here, hit enter, and then the monitoring will start. We'll just unlock the scrolling here so you can actually see the data coming in. And you should now be able to see that the sensors that I have, the 5 different S1 sensors, that they have slightly different MAC addresses, and they send in different data. I've placed the 5 sensors that I have all across the house, so you actually have different temperatures. One of my sensors is currently in the fridge, which would give us a temperature reading of about 6 degrees centigrade. So that's the one in the fridge. So we are now formally connected. We can see the data coming into Azure IoT Hub here as we monitor it. Now let's move back across to the IoT Hub and see what else we can see. If we click on Overview and scroll down, we have these monitors, and we'll start with this one, Device to Cloud Messages. We'll change the setting up here to the last 30 minutes, change the granularity to 1 minute, and hit Apply. We can see that the number of messages I get per minute has shot up to 60 from nothing. So this is us creating the IoT Hub. We did that roughly in this time frame, and a few minutes later we created it, and now it's generating 60 messages. It's receiving 60 messages per minute, which coincides with the fact that we'd left the original setting at sending messages once per second. So if I hit refresh, we can see that it's now plateaued at 60 messages per second. So the messages are coming in. We'll go back to the overview. Go to resource overview. We'll scroll down here. And then we'll have a look at the number of messages. Change here, last 30 minutes, granularity 1 minute. There you have it. We are indeed connected. And that's the end of, in the next tutorial, we'll talk about setting up storage, analytics, and visualizations. So stay tuned.